Welcome to eBuilder University's on-demand video training. If you would like to learn more about additional training opportunities, please contact your account manager. Now let's jump into Scheduling Draft and Activate Baseline.
Good day, everyone. This is Martin Estezarian, Certified eBuilder Trainer. And in the second video in the Schedule module series, we're going to start assembling a schedule. And this is post setting up the initial setup of the schedule, which were the rules of engagement and the schedule manager. So now let's move forward. So what you are looking at here is the new version of the schedule module. And the reason I mention that is because this is a recent change for us at eBuilder. If you're still using the legacy module, please refer to your account manager and ask to be upgraded or moved over to this version. It's going to be quite helpful for you to do it this way, a little bit more advanced than what we're using right now in the legacy module. So let's proceed. So the first thing you're going to find in on this page when you're setting up your schedule is kind of like a blank slate, as you would in any other schedule tool. And what it's going to ask you to do is to build your schedule. Now, there are a couple of notes that I want all of you to take as you watch this video to make sure you're aware of the different methods that you can use in order to start assembling your schedule or building your schedule. So I'm going to kind of list them out, and I want all of you to write them down as you watch this video to make sure that you understand what these three methodologies are. The first methodology of setting up a schedule is what I call the manual setup, which means that you're going to go into eBuilder and you're going to set up the schedule task by task. I'm going to run through a demo of that momentarily so I can show you how that works, and you can be comfortable with doing that if that's the way that you decide that you want to put your schedule together. The second and most popular methodology that we have is the utilization of schedule templates. Templates are used quite often across the entire system for different aspects of eBuilder, different modules of eBuilder, but the schedule module does have its own capabilities of using schedule templates. Now, obviously, this is very conducive to the owners that we work with, the clients that we work with, because you're constantly managing the same high-level milestones across multiple projects. And so remember, using a template is basically creating a shortcut. You're not necessarily committing to every aspect of the template. You're just simply adding it to your schedule so that you can get the schedule started a little bit quicker. Okay, and it's just a more consistent way of managing your schedule. So I'll show you the benefits of that momentarily. And in another video, I will show you the third methodology, which is importing a schedule. There's a variety of tools that you can use, including Excel and Microsoft Project and even Primavera P6. But the example that I am going to show you as part of this demonstration in another video within this series is bringing something in from Microsoft Project. So stay tuned for that, and we can watch that in another video. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a schedule, and I'm going to show you the first two methodologies that I mentioned. So let's begin. First, when you look at the schedule, you're going to see the name of your project here in the first row of the schedule, meaning everything that we're going to put below here is going to roll up into these very standard columns that the schedule module is going to provide. The duration of the schedule, the start and the finish date of the schedule. This right here stands for percent complete, which is very important, specifically when you are in the middle of your project and you want to manage the percent complete. Very, very important when it comes to invoicing for a lot of our clients. They determine their invoice amounts and approve their invoices based on the percent complete. So if you were going to add your tasks manually, I want to direct your attention to this area of the screen right here. Okay? And you'll notice that this entire thing is set up in different sections. It's set up in tasks, actions that you can take, navigation commands, baseline commands, zooming in and out of the screen, and calendars, which is something I have to mention towards the end because this is an improvement that's currently being worked on right now as part of the upgrade for the schedule module. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But for now, what I want to do is I want to direct your attention to these specific areas right here because this is what's going to allow you to start assembling your schedule. So if you want to put in your first task, what you're going to do is you're going to click Add here, and it's going to add a row for you. Now, you will manually come in here and you'll type out your task. I'm just going to write the word design. And I will keep it at 1 day because there's a method to my madness here, okay? I'm going to add a couple of more tasks. So I'm going to add 3 more tasks. I click the button 3 times. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do schematic design, design drawings, and construction documents, okay? Very typical activities within the design. And then I'm going to add a couple days to these. I'll just keep it simple. These days may not apply to your specific projects, but I'll just do it for the purpose of this training. Now notice what's happening to the project line. Everything that I'm doing here is starting to add up because the project line is acting as a giant roll-up for the schedule. This is going to give someone the ability to report on schedule across the entire project, okay? Now, typically, schematic design, design documents, and construction documents in the construction world are children of design. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all of these items right here by holding Control or Shift, and we're going to use this command here called indent. And when I do, notice how it magically now these become children of the design activity. So again, this is a very quick and easy way of getting a very short schedule together by adding things manually. And obviously, if you want to outdent, right, you want to change what you've done, you can actually bring them back out. Now, one thing that I am going to direct your attention to here in the action area, which I find to be amazing, I love this part of the new schedule module, is this undo and redo button. This is something that the previous version of this module did not have. If you are a person that's going in and you are adjusting a lot of things in the schedule, not just building it like I am, but if you're adjusting percent completes, if you're adjusting dates, and you need a quick way to kind of take 3 steps back, the undo button is going to be amazing for you. So please take advantage of that. And I know it's in another section of the toolbar, but I just want to bring it to your attention. Okay? So this is how you're going to create a schedule manually. These are the first initial steps that you would take. And obviously you'd create more by adding additional tasks. Now, the second methodology that I mentioned earlier that I want to show you is the use of templates. So in essence, as opposed to you doing things manually like we did, you're going to leverage a template. Now, part of a typical eBuilder implementation, if you did purchase the schedule module, what we typically do, and it may or may have not been on your implementation, but if it was, you know what I'm talking about. Typically, the implementation team is charged with building you a schedule template. And what most clients will do is they will give us a very general template that they would use across all of their projects, because in doing so, they can adjust it for the specific projects that they are applying it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the template bar here, and it's going to give me a list of templates that I currently have inside of this account. Okay? Now, I've created a couple of templates here, sample templates. A couple of people have created their own. I'm going to grab this one that's strategically called sample template. And when I do, it's going to ask me a very simple question. Where do you want to apply the activities in this template? Very important conversation. I want to clear a big misconception that when people see this of what to choose here. So, some clients, when they build a schedule template, they will build a schedule template of an entire project, right, from beginning to end. They will say a typical project from beginning to end has these activities, has these durations, has these predecessors, all of the schedule terms that we typically see. Another approach that one can take with templates is to build templates for the individual phases of your project. So if you do so, this particular screen right here will help you control the placement of when you are applying a template. So hypothetically, let's say I already applied a design template to the schedule and I am intending on applying a construction template. I would probably want to insert it below the last activity of the designed portion of the schedule, right? So make sure that you guys are aware of what this is for. But in essence, if you are applying a template for an entire project, don't even worry about clicking anything here. It will be the last activity in the schedule because it's basically every activity in the schedule at that point. Go ahead and click apply. And when you do, this is what it's going to look like. Now, the schedule that I have here is extremely simple. I am not saying that templates have to be reduced down to these activities. Obviously, we have clients out there that have really complex schedules, but for the purpose of this video, I made it very, very easy, okay? Now, one thing that I want to show you that proves the point of what I feel a template is, which is a shortcut, is that I can make adjustments here that were not part of the template. Like I said before, a template, in my opinion, is a starting point. It's a quick way to get something going without necessarily having to type it out manually because you're always managing to these tasks. I'll give you a very cool example here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple of tasks here at the bottom, just like I did when I manually did it before. You see I'm doing this right here. And I'm going to add the famous schematic design, design drawings, and construction documents. Okay. Now, we agreed before that these would be subtasks of design. So I'm manually going to type in 30 days for this, 30 days for this. And one thing I do want to show you, just like in Microsoft Project, if I were to drag that down, I could actually copy 30 days. So I don't necessarily have to manually type it out if it's the same amount of days. Really, really cool feature of the schedule module. Now, if I grab schematic design and I kind of drag it, right? Let me drag it here. Notice I'm putting it under design. I'm going to drag this and put this under SD. And I'm going to drag this and put this under CD. And then I'm going to select all of them as such, and I will hit indent again. Magically now, I have subtasks of design. And one indication of this that I want to point out is that when something has a subtask, notice that it becomes bolded font. The overall, the schedule training project, they are all bolded font because they represent roll-ups. And that's exactly what design now represents because I added these 3 subtasks. And notice that everything here will roll up into design. Now, another area that I want to talk about is the establishment of predecessors. I'm going to move this middle bar here that's separating our table from our Gantt chart, which we will look at momentarily. I'm going to kind of move it here to the right because I want to expose this column right here called Add New Column. Now, there are typically 2 columns I like to add as part of my training with the schedule module, basic training with the schedule module, because there are 2 columns here that are going to be used really, really often throughout the whole schedule module. The first column that I want to add by clicking on Add New Column is this little hashtag right here. And when I click it, you'll notice that it has a sequential numbering system going from 0 down to 9. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this hashtag all the way to the beginning of my schedule. Okay? And notice that it represents each individual row inside the schedule. So in essence, the hashtag represents row numbers. Now, the reason I want to point this out is because this is a very, very big misconception right here on the left-hand side. These are row numbers. They are not. This is what eBuilder will label as a work breakdown structure, okay? It's simply a numbering system that's showing you the different layers per row. Okay, so you'll notice that I have here number 1, which is overall, but the first sublayer of overall, 1.1, is acquisition. The second sublayer is 1.2, and the third is 1.3. Now, the numbering system gets more interesting here because I've added a third sublayer. So that's what a work breakdown structure is going to do. Now, that is different from row numbers. Row numbers are just simply the rows that you currently have in your schedule. And this is very important to understand, specifically if you're going to use predecessors inside of your schedule, which is a very popular activity within most of the schedules that our clients use. In essence, we are going to create dependencies on each one of the tasks, meaning we're going to tell the schedule that if one task is complete, the other task is going to start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of adjust my columns here because you can do that as well, right? You can kind of custom fit everything, make sure you're using your space to the best of your ability. And I'm going to add another column here. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to create a column that's very, very popular for most, and that's going to be predecessors. Okay? Now notice that there are already numbers here inside of this column. And the reason why is because the predecessors that you see here were already set up as part of the template. That's why templates are so awesome, because you can do all the work up front as far as setting up the dependencies, and then you can come in, apply the template, and all of that comes with it. So just by applying a start date to a schedule, you can get all the dates automatically calculated based on all these dependencies. Now, if you're new to scheduling, these dependencies are basically dictating when these items are going to begin based on either a previous item or an item that's running in parallel, an activity that's running in parallel. It will vary from client to client. But what you're seeing here specifically is this number 2, just so I can draw your attention, represents the planning row, which means that the number 2 is the row of acquisition. See, row number 2 is acquisition. And it's basically saying that upon acquisition finishing, planning will begin, which is row number 3. Now, remember in the parameters in the previous video, I set up a 5-day work week in my schedule. So notice how it strategically goes from 8:31 to 9:03 when we basically say from start to finish. Now, if I were to come in here and add, let's say, a lag time, which I'll show you in a future video, meaning if it's going to start, let's say, 5 days after acquisition is completed, then this date would actually show that calculation. But because I've added these other items here, I have to adjust these predecessors because these predecessors were based on the previous template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this number 4 because I'm going to make some adjustments. And I'm going to say that SD is strategically going to start when planning is done, right? So I will remove number 3 from here because this is a roll-up task now. And I will put 3 FS. And that means that this specific activity will begin when planning is done. And then I'm just going to create a linear dependency across these three right here. So naturally, if SD is number 5, I'm going to put 5 FS, and then I'm going to put 6 FS. So now I've created a very linear stream of dependencies, right? And then in construction, I'm going to say 7 FS. And again, it doesn't have to be this way for your specific schedule, but I've created a critical path across the entire schedule that's very linear. In other words, most things depend on each other. Again, the way that you run your schedules is up to you, but I'm just showing you this basic functionality so you can get comfortable with it and how it looks in the schedule. For most that have used scheduling tools before, this is a very common language amongst all the schedulers in the industry. So this is probably very basic stuff, but for those of you that are learning how to schedule, this is really good stuff because it's going to help you understand how schedules are set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of move this little bar back to where it was before because I'm happy with the columns that I have. I could add more. It's up to you. I'm going to stay with the ones that I currently have right now. Now we're going to get into two major steps that are very important. So what we've been doing right now from a business perspective is we have been drafting a schedule. In other words, this schedule right now is currently in a draft state, meaning the schedule is being set up so that when we actually pull the trigger and say the schedule is official, which takes 2 more steps that I'll talk about momentarily, we are now at the beginning stages. So it proves that when you use a template, you're simply giving a blank canvas first, you're putting a bunch of stuff on it immediately by applying a template, and then you are now going to formalize what you've put together. Now this will vary from client to client. Sometimes there's an approval process that has to take place. Sometimes different people have to look at it. Sometimes the schedule manager can just basically pull the trigger on their own. So it will vary from client to client. But this is very easy stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight overall, and I'm going to go down here, I'm going to hold the shift button and highlight every single activity on this schedule. I'm going to right click on one of them, right? And notice all the options that I have here available to me, right? So when you right click on each one of them, you're going to have this option called activate. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to activate your schedule. Now you can in essence do it to all of them at once, but I want to get you comfortable with the motions here, okay? So I'm right clicking on the work breakdown structure number. I'm right clicking and this menu's appearing and I'm activating, okay? Now, as you guys have probably figured out watching this video, when you activate a task, you're looking at an orange line here on the left-hand side, but notice it says it's not baselined. So baseline in the schedule world basically means this is the starting point. This schedule is now official, and now this schedule is still not official. So most ask, well, what on earth does activate mean? Well, activate represents 2 very simple things. The first thing that it represents is that when you activate a schedule, you have now made the schedule at hand visible to other people that are on this specific project that have permissions to see the schedule module. I will say that again. When you activate a schedule, the first purpose of it is to make the schedule visible to other people that are participants of this specific project that we're on that have permissions to see the schedule module. It is also now reportable. When you activate a schedule, you have now made it available for reporting, which again is the ultimate reason people buy eBuilder. But again, it is not baselined. By baselining a schedule, you have now made it official, meaning that if a change occurs to the schedule after you have baselined it, you have made what I like to label as an official variance to the schedule, an official record that says something was changed, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight everything again. Actually, you don't have to actually. Let me take that back. I'm going to highlight overall only, right-click, and I'm going to click Set Baseline. And this little window is going to pop up, which I find to be very convenient, specifically if you have a lot more tasks than I currently have, because as you can see, I've only right-clicked next to one, and it gives me the option from this point to baseline the entire project, which is what I'm going to do, or the individual task itself. I'm going to do the entire project. And by clicking OK, you will notice now the bars are green, which green means go. This means the schedule has been baselined. Now, the new version of this schedule module has a little bit of a trick that a lot of people miss, and I'm going to make sure you guys don't miss it every time you use the schedule. Do you notice this lonely little save button over here on the right-hand side? Most people miss that. Most people feel that once they have clicked Set Baseline, they've clicked Set Baseline, they are done. Negative. You have to click that save button in order to confirm everything that you've done. If you don't click that save button and you come out of the schedule, it's going to give you kind of a confirmation screen saying, are you sure you want to leave because you haven't saved changes? And that's going to be like a little warning sign for you. But please make it a habit that anytime you make a change to the schedule, whether you're drafting it, whether you're activating it, whether you're baselining, that you save the schedule. And upon saving the schedule, what I've basically done is I've now made this schedule official. It is official or reportable. It is at its starting point, and now someone can start using the schedule. In the next video, I'm going to go over some of the tools that we have up here on the toolbar just to get you more comfortable with the navigation of the schedule module. Thank you for watching.
If you would like to learn more about additional training opportunities, please contact your account manager.